Welcome to Property and Beyond, episode 4. Anyone who has bought or sold a property will know that the process can often feel slow, frustrating, and sometimes unnecessarily complicated. Today, I'm joined by a good friend of mine, Luke Robinson, and he just happens to be a conveyancing solicitor at Vincent Solicitors in Lytham. And today, we're going to discuss how estate agents and conveyancers can work better together. What causes delays in the transaction process? What can we do to create faster transactions and better outcomes for clients? Luke, welcome. Thank you for joining me on the Property and Beyond podcast. We've been speaking about it for a few weeks, so I'm really grateful for you joining us before you jet set off to America for the World Cup. Luke isn't playing, he is a good footballer, but that ship has sailed.
Well and truly, thanks for having me, mate. I really appreciate it.
No worries at all.
That sailed a long time ago now, I think.
Yeah. So let's crack on into the first topic, Luke. Why do transactions take so long? So let's start with the obvious question. Everyone talks about transaction times getting longer. But from your perspective, sitting on the legal side, what's actually causing those delays?
Do you know what? It's a difficult one with property, obviously, and transactions. Most of the people watching the podcast will have a brief understanding of how the conveyancing process is a bit old-fashioned, and it could do with reform, it could do with updating. Obviously, you guys on the estate agent front will know that more than anyone else. But I think the main cause of delays that we find are, one, clients not returning the paperwork to us in time and quickly.
Yeah.
However, there's new systems and stuff in place that we can do to try and speed things up there. Unresponsive solicitors who are conveyancing factories, who might outsource work to third parties, and obtaining information and replies from them can be difficult. And I think volume and caseload as well can also be a difficult one for conveyancers, slowing things down, people not having enough time to do the work on the files and not getting enough support, really.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head there with the lack of support and caseload, and you actually see that an awful lot. I call them the chicken factories, and that might not be too fair, because
it's probably not far from the truth, to be honest, with some of the information you can get from some of them.
Yeah, and it's hard enough for estate agents having to sometimes chase solicitors up for updates and kind of see where files are up to, but you're having to actually deal firsthand with these solicitors that haven't got the support network around them and are overworked and are, like you said, the chicken factories. That it is difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, it makes it difficult because I think there's a misconception, especially about solicitors and property transactions, that people think we just sit there and the file's on the desk and we're getting paid more by the hour as it was with an old solicitor, if you will. It's not the case. We're working on a fixed fee, and for us, the best interest of everyone is to get the file completed and done and off the desk. The quicker the turnover, the better. I think the problems that you see with some of these conveyancing factories and some of the other solicitors that we may deal with is that there doesn't appear to be a want to work together, whereas really that's what it should be on a file. It's not, you're not up against each other. It's not a litigious issue. You should all be working together to an end goal of moving your clients in and out of a property. Again, lack of information and knowledge on some files can be difficult when liaising with other side solicitors. And the other thing that I forgot to mention before, but we do come across that slows transactions down, is you seem to be always in this industry fixing previous mistakes. So, for example, boundary issues. You may buy a property that's missing some land at the rear, and there's obviously a wealth of things that can go wrong in a transaction. But like I say, if you're working together with the other side solicitor to try and get to an end goal rather than butting heads and arguing with one another, it would make the transactions flow much smoother, to be honest.
So do you sometimes see when you get that heads of terms or memorandum of sale come through, because it's very like a estate agent, it's like a small town, everyone kind of knows everyone within the industry, that you see a name and you go, oh no, this is going to be painful, it's going to be like pulling teeth?
Exactly that. Exactly that. You see some names on there, and you're like, oh no, it's going to be like pulling teeth, literally. But on the other hand, obviously, there are loads of good local solicitors who we do work with, and you see the names and you think, great, let's work together, let's get it through. And they're the transactions that go through quickly because you want to work together and get things over to get things over the line. But like I
Yeah.
said, there are a lot, and not in Blackpool so much, more on the wider scope, the larger conveyancing firms, the factories, the chicken factories, if you will. They're the ones you look at and you're like, right, okay, this is going to be a battle. And you just got to do what you can to get them done.
Yeah, and well, as you touched on as well, missing paperwork can be painful, and clients not responding, and that's just an industry issue, isn't it?
Yeah.
So then when you've got a not so proactive solicitor on the other side, and they're not perhaps chasing the client for the missing information, it just slows the whole system down, doesn't it?
Of course it does. I mean, the return of paperwork and clients' paperwork that they're required to provide us with, there's so much for conveyancing. Like you're going through the same process with your estate agent, with your broker, and with your solicitor in providing pretty much the same information and repetitive information, bank statements, filling out forms that you need to fill in. A lot of it now we are trying to move online onto tech-based, whereby the system does it for you, which will help. But still, the clients have to input and do that information.
Yeah.
So it just makes it hard, doesn't it? Trying
Yeah.
to push
Oh,
things through.
yeah, it does. And we've got the same issue on the onboarding side. And we've looked at prop tech solutions, which we're using now. Fortunately, through our governing body, Property Mark, they provide us with an onboarding solution and ID verification. And that's a massive help. But like you said, it comes down to you can take the horse to water, but you can't make it drink, can you?
Exactly. Yeah,
In
exactly.
some instances. But that being said, I do find that the quicker we are at getting a client prepared, the better. And when someone comes onto market, they're really motivated because they're excited. They think they're going to sell the house the next day, and sometimes we do. And it's a bit like that when a sale's agreed as well, that we see sometimes people rush to get everything done. Some people won't. But it's where the market might have beaten people up a little bit and they've been on the market a while, or they've been through a sale process before and it's fallen through. That's where it can take a little bit longer from my experience.
Yeah, no, completely agreed on that. Especially I tend to find the ones who are first time buyers, a bit wet behind the ears, they seem a bit more keen to get the information in and the documentation through. It on the flip side, the ones who are your investor clients who are doing loads of property work don't seem to want to get the documents back, maybe because they've done it 100 times, maybe because they don't see it as an interesting process and they're like, I've provided this to you on the previous transaction, why should I have to do it? They're the ones that sort of take time, but they're also the ones who want to be in yesterday and want all the work done yesterday. So it's catch-22.
You just described me there, Luke, when you chased me for proof of funds.
I know.
I'll bring you a picture of the car park meter that we're emptying.
Yeah, there's a car park meter. There's a couple of pictures of mattresses that I might have had now and again, but
yeah, funny. So there are obviously the avoidable delays and the delays from, as we call them, chicken factories, clients not being quick enough and missing paperwork. But there's also the unavoidable delays as well, such as delays with searches, aren't there, and mortgage underwriting and third-party management. You've got a lot of components also to manage as well as kind of we do as estate agents as well.
Yeah, it's a difficult one because the avoidable delays are frustrating because, like you say, everyone can be a bit quicker, the tech can help, and things can move things along. The unavoidable delays, you do what you can to try and push them through. So like your searches and stuff, get them ordered at the outset, get them paid, get deals in place with maybe your search provider whereby you can have a replacement if your property falls through, just to speed things along and get the ball rolling and a couple of weeks ahead. The unavoidable ones are the ones where, for me, in the legal process, like I've said previously, those fixing mistakes and dealing with things like that. Because I think people think when you buy a property, you just literally, you're buying a house, there's nothing to it.
Yeah.
There's nothing that needs to be done. What do you actually do as a solicitor? When really, when you actually look at it and the complexities of it with the old deeds and issues with land and leasehold reforms, and there's such a minefield and wealth of information that you have to understand, that then trying to portray that back to a client who just thinks, I just want to buy a property, it can make it difficult. And it's those unavoidable delays that people get frustrated with, even though ultimately what we're trying to do in resolving them is for the clients and the lender's protection. So yeah, it's a tough one to manage, a bit of a balancing act, really.
Yeah, no, fair enough. So I think the stat at the moment as well, isn't it? In terms of delays, it's taking on average nationally 120 days from sale agreed to completion, which is a long bloody time. Do you think them timescales have genuinely increased, or is it just that expectations have changed?
I think the timescales have increased. I mean, I was dealing with an agent the other day who'd sent out a memo, and their advice to clients was that transactions will take 24 plus weeks nationally from receipt of contracts rather than from sale agreed. So for us, you start the sale at when sales agreed, but we would potentially start the legals from receipt of contracts, which paperwork's got to get into us. We can't really do much before that point. I mean, we can order searches and do as much DD on the clients as we can, but until we get a pack in from the seller solicitor, the transaction's really at a standstill. I tend to find locally, depending on who you're dealing with, standard freehold properties, we're looking about 8 to 12 weeks from contracts into completion, which isn't bad going, but again, it's so subjective on property. Is it a flat? Is it leasehold? Is it shared ownership? Because the different complexities within each transaction obviously leads to delays, or maybe not even delays, maybe the anticipated completion date being further extended than you would normally expect.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. You've got to take everything on a case by case basis, haven't you? But if you've got your system and process and everything to a T, you know what's coming in, and you can deal with it. You know you're dealing with something efficiently, but there's outside factors that you have no control on whatsoever. If you could remove one bottleneck, if you had a magic wand, or you had the magic genie in a bottle, and you could remove one bottleneck or one issue, what would it be?
That's a tough one. Can we take solicitors out or not? Is that we can't put a hit on
make my life easier.
We can't put a hit on all the solicitors in the local area now. It's a tough one. I mean, there's a lot of red tape, but understandably, the red tape's there for a reason. But I think it's just becoming more and more red tape that we have to satisfy, and requirements that we have to satisfy for lenders, the SRA, the Law Society. And I mean, it has to be there, but there's got to be a better way of satisfying that without having to do so much due diligence on each client. I mean, sometimes for us solicitors, we're expected to be a solicitor, a tax advisor, an accountant, a sales negotiator, and really we should just be limited to one role. So for me, it would be to remove the red tape, or in a way that it's still compliant but easier, if it will. Because I think you can spend a lot of time doing the admin on the files and stuff that's to be done to ensure we're compliant, which of course we need to be. But there's that much of it. It can obviously delay things, slow things down.
Yeah, it's the old adage, isn't it? Most transactions don't fall apart because of one major issue. It's usually death by 1,000 cuts.
100%, 100% agreed.
Which that is the issue.
Yeah, and
go on.
I mean, without complete reform of the system, which I guess we'll discuss further on, the only way to do it would be to try and slimline all of your processes, and again use the tech to help. I think is the only way moving forward.
I think tech can help. I think estate agents can do better as well to get people legally prepared as well. Because as you touched on before, we are all working towards the same conclusion on it. That's what we all want. We want to be moving people on. Property is the biggest asset someone's ever going to buy or sell.
Yeah.
And I still feel like we're doing it on the back of a fag pack. And I feel like there's so much tech out there that there's no reason why the whole system can't be made more efficient.
Yeah, agreed. Fully agreed. It's like the signing of documents, wet sign documents now when you can do DocuSign. Like some lenders will specifically require you to have wet sign documents. I mean, we are moving a bit more towards DocuSign and whatnot, but like just things like that are just still stuck in the past. We've got to move forward with like waiting for documents to come through in the post or be sent out to people. Shouldn't be slowing things down. Getting the tech to help, especially with AI and whatnot, should massively improve things. Just going on what you said by estate agents there, I mean, we should be working together, but that's not always the case as well, is it? It depends on, I guess, your relationship, where they're from, their sales tactics. There's got to be sort of a middle ground with that as well that needs to be improved on.
Ultimately, the estate agent and conveyance relationship, I think, is key.
Massively.
To a lot of it, because we're all part of the same system. And that actually brings us really nice onto the second topic. There's always been that perception that estate agents and conveyances don't always see eye to eye. And I don't think that is entirely fair.
I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's true as well, to be honest.
I think it can be true.
In some circumstances, agreed. But I mean, it depends on the ones you've built up relationships with, I think, to be honest. Like myself and you guys, we do so much work together, get on really well, and we understand what we need from each other, and we will work together to get things done. Some estate agents that especially that we deal with, some of the bigger national ones again, have sort of a different sales tactic whereby it'll be like a pressure on you need to ring your solicitor now and tell them to do this when you may have had inquiries in for 3 minutes. But because the estate agent knows that, they ring the client, cause a call that causes concern, and the client's like then ringing you. So you're having 4 phone calls, 2 emails on an issue that's just been created out of nothing, and you can sort of get a storm in a teacup from depending on the way that it's sold to the client, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, and I think so. I think there's a lot of estate agents as well that potentially, and I've touched on this in previous episodes, because there's such low barrier to entry in estate agency. There's a lot of estate agents that don't maybe understand the processes and the system, so they kind of waylaid as such by kind of, we want this doing now. And we don't actually understand that just kind of part of their job, because the estate agent doesn't get paid until that sale completes. It's in the estate agent's interest not to create that storm in a teacup and to try and work with the solicitor to resolve any issues there might be.
Yeah, I think with it's a very fine line. I mean, from dealing with estate agents, I'd love to say to every estate agent who we work with, come and sit with us in the office just for a day. Just sit in the office for a day and just watch what we do, watch the calls and watch the emails come in and the work that we actually try and do on the file. Because a lot of the time, legally, I mean, if I answered the phone to every phone call that went through, I'd never get anything done in a day. I just wouldn't. And that's why we have the staff there to do it. But for them to be able to sit and understand what we actually have to do and how it works would be brilliant. I mean, it's never going to happen, but just going back to what you said about the estate agents and the low entry bar, I think you can see it. You can tell when you're dealing with an estate agent who's got experience, understands how a transaction's going, and actually understands how a property works and how a property transaction should flow. What you seem to get a lot of the time nowadays is with, especially some of the younger ones, the entry level ones, is they'll be given an update but won't understand where the process is at or understand what's actually going on. So you could ring the client and say, well, you've got your mortgage offer and your searches in and you need to speak to your solicitor, but we've not had a contract back in. So it's like, well, we're still in the starting block.
Yeah, there's nothing you can, what are you updating them on?
Yeah, but they don't understand how the actual process works. So they might go off like a tick box sheet and it's gone. I know you can see it sometimes where it's coming through from like, especially these Purple Brixes and people like that, where they're all sort of automated. You can see they've got a tick sheet: is the searches in, is the mortgage offer in, and it's not like actually understanding where the transaction's at. It's just going, oh well, that's in.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't help, because then the clients are confused by the updates. It's a really fine line between updating and helping the transaction move along, trying to take over and advise the clients, or not doing either and not understanding it at all. But you see three different routes for me on that front.
Yeah, I agree. Well, ultimately, it's about the estate agent's job and the conveyancer's job, and the whole process is making sure that you've got a happy client at the end of it,
100%.
that you have a successful completion. Yeah, there's going to be frustration. Yes, there's going to be stresses on all sides.
Yeah.
That's just the industry that we work in. But the estate agent's job, in my opinion, is to sit and be that middle party.
Yeah, agreed.
Kind of glues it all together. What would help us would be if there was some financial commitment or skin in the game from the off, because there's nothing more frustrating than a sale falling through.
Same with us. Same with us.
For no reason. And if there was a bit of skin in the game, and it would stop fall throughs. But that's what estate agents need to kind of realise, is their job is to just glue the whole process together and make sure they have a happy client at the end of it.
It's tough because you can lose so many sales from things like that. I mean, we had an estate agent in a chain the other day, and they contacted and created a chain for everyone in the chain and put us all into an email chain. There was a property in Scotland at the top of the chain, and I was like, why are these guys in here? And then they tried to create a poll for completion dates and said, everyone fill this poll in for a completion date. I was like, sounds like a great idea in like the not real world, but in the real world, that's not going to work.
It's just not going to work. And then, like, how many people are in that chain? How many different properties are?
Yeah.
Or the Scottish system's completely different to the English one.
Crazy, mate. Honestly.
It's crazy, isn't it? But I look at it and go, the common things that agents can do to genuinely help a transaction as well. What can an agent potentially do from your side?
For me, it's helping the clients with the onboarding, because you know the process and you know how it works. I mean, I work with Stephen quite a lot on your web move side, and a lot of the onboarding there, Stephen will have done and prepared with the clients before it comes to auction to us, which works really well. Obviously, in an ideal world, that'd be great. So it's helping them understand that and understand the process, and maybe managing their expectations a little bit. Clients expect to be in a property within 2 minutes. I call it the Amazon Prime generation now, where you can click a button and get something tomorrow. And I think everyone wants that. I'd love that. It'd be great to be able to do that. But the process takes time. I wish it didn't, and I wish there was a way that it was a lot quicker. But unfortunately, it's not. And I think it's just managing those clients' expectations as to, this is when you've got your contracts in, this is when we probably would be looking at completion. And just knowing that from the outset, and then liaising with the client throughout, and not necessarily always pushing them to liaise with the solicitor. Because if we get 3 update emails on a file that's nearly ready to complete, it's going to take us 20 minutes, half an hour to respond to them all. That 20 minutes, half an hour could have been spent in lining the file up to complete. So I think it's just interfering when you need to, essentially updating when you need to, and managing the client whereby they're not taking up too much time, and the estate agents aren't taking up too much time of the solicitors to actually do the job. But again, it's a fine line. I think it's just knowing and having that understanding of when to push and when not to push.
Yeah, I know how Gail does it, who looks after our sales management. She obviously came up to you guys when she first joined and was like, right, because I was like, Gail, I want you to go up, I want you to sit with Luke, I want you to understand the process. And Gail's knowledgeable and experienced. She's she's the ex-bank manager at Santander. So she knows how a process works and the system works. But it was important for her to kind of know how your workload is. And she actually sends you, I think it still does it once a week. She just lists you all the file on an email and go, update me when you can.
Yeah, and it's one of them. It's whereby she doesn't need the update straight away. And I think she sends a list, but to be fair to Gail, I think she manages a list a lot better, because if you sent me a list of all the properties that we do, it would be an arduous task in
Yeah.
filling all in and updating on every single one. I think that Gail manages it well because she's got that experience. She can look at a list and go, well, I probably need updates on this one, and this one, rather than having just a weekly generic update on everything, because things might not have changed in a week. It could
No.
be that it's bi-weekly or monthly that they change. And I think it's then managing that from your side and seeing where a transaction's at and going, okay, this one's maybe at the pre-exchange place whereby we've done all the inquiries and it might need a good update. Or if it's right at the start, what's the update date going to be? Do you know what I mean? You might get a better update from the client on that front. But I think Gail manages that really well. Rather than
Gail does manage that really well. And we, as you've referred to Gail before, it's like having an extra legal clerk.
Yeah.
Because estate agents and conveyancers should be working together because we're all part of the same transaction and system. And if you're missing paperwork or there's something that needs a chase up, as I've kind of said to you, said lean on Gail, because it's in our interest that we help out if your team are under pressure.
That's how it should be. I mean, Gail can say to me, Luke, do you need anything? And I'll be like, oh, look, this client's maybe struggling with the paperwork or needs to get something back to us. They don't want to come in. And I've had clients before go and sit in your office and do the paperwork with Michelle and Gail, and they'll send it over for us. That's great if they want to do that and don't want to come to us to do it. Sometimes when they come and sit in a solicitor's office, they might think, oh, don't really want to go to a solicitor's. It's a bit daunting. I mean, that's probably from past experiences and the old profession, if you will. And I think we're more in a new age now whereby it's not that daunting experience going to a solicitor's, but Gail and Michelle can provide that friendly face. They've sold them a property and they can just help them go through paperwork and assist with the transaction when needs be.
Yeah, 100%. So just to close this topic, Luke, if there was one thing you could change tomorrow about the relationship between estate agents and conveyancers, what would it be?
I mean, for me, it'd be to have a good relationship with the estate agents and conveyancers that we have. The way we work really works for me and works for us both clearly in business. It'd be nice to be able to have that with all agents. I mean, you're not going to know every agent personally. But for me, I guess on that, if you're not going to know them personally, it would maybe be that it's hard to say. I guess the updates requests are kept to a minimum, I guess, and only given when required, I guess.
Yeah, an understanding.
Ultimately, it's between each other, and not trying to rile clients up and use a tactic of scaring people, saying that your sale's going to fall through, and things like that to try and push a transaction along, because ultimately it never really helps.
Great conversation. Let's just park that topic there and move on to the final topic of what does a better property transaction look like from your point of view. So if we were designing the whole home moving process from scratch in 2026, what would you like to see?
I think for me, the old system would be straight out the window. The technology is going to have to help. I think front loading information, maybe your information packs, your material information, surveys being provided by sellers would be very helpful. If you could have a survey and a legal pack that is then provided to a solicitor at the outset with contracts, that would speed things up massively. And the big one for me would be similar to the Scottish system. If you can get a commitment to purchase at the outset, exchange contracts on offer, on review of a pack, things would just go much smoother.
Do you know what? It's something I've kept on saying. I know it has its critics. The Scottish system, it works. And I don't understand why we're not following that same system. There's an agent I've spoke to down south, really nice guy. And he said, it's crazy. The Scottish system is good. In England, we've got to come up with reservation agreements to come up with something. And reservation agreements might have a place to stay if this transaction system is here for the long course, which hopefully it's not. But the Scottish system is a good system. It works. And I think we'd see a lot of benefit if it was to come down here.
Agreed. It's just that commitment as well, isn't it? You wouldn't see any fall throughs. You've got information uploaded up front, and then you've got the chance to be able to raise whatever you need afterwards.
Yeah.
It just speed things up tenfold, in my opinion.
It would speed things up. It would stop. It would probably stop certain stakeholders within a transaction working separately as well, and would mean everyone works as one unit around the client, moving them from A to B, which is the main objective.
Yeah, no, agreed. Completely agreed.
Each week, I ask a question at the end of every episode to a guest. We had Chris Houston on episode 1. It was very emotional and soppy. We had Stephen, episode 2. It was very Stephen, matter of fact.
Yeah.
We had mine, which was kind of learning to take a breath and step back from having to fight every situation. So, Luke, over to you. What's a moment in your career or life that has genuinely changed the way you think? It can be personal or it can be career business-led.
Yeah, I thought about this when you asked me the question. I've thought about it quite a lot. I think there's probably a couple for me. There's not just one defining moment. I think the first one was when I was at uni. I was sat there doing a sports degree. I love sports, love my football. Never going to make it anywhere. And I realised I was
not when you have a defender like me that can tell.
Very true. Yeah, I'll probably end up with no shins, but that's about it. And I thought, this isn't going to get me anywhere. It's really not going to get me anywhere. So turned my hand to law, went and did my law degree. And that's the first time I was like, right, okay, I'm trying to build a future. I know what I'm doing. After that, I went on to do my teaching because I hated law after my 3 years at uni and thought, right, teaching, that's it. Did teaching for a bit and I was like, ooh, don't know if that's for me. So I thought, do you know what? Sack it. Going back into law, took an entry-level job, bottom of the pile, worked my way up to where I am now. And then I think the ultimate defining moment that changed everything in the legal sense for me would be when I moved to Vincent's. Just completely changed, saw that I wasn't just Blackpool anymore. I felt like I'd sort of pigeoned myself all with Blackpool and saw that there's a wider market, wider things to get involved in and progress and work hard. So just knuckle down, crack on, and the sky's the limit, really, mate.
Yeah, good. I think you've summed that up nicely. And obviously we've known each other a long, long time. And I kind of know the challenges you went through and kind of meddling around in your head as well with the right kind of route for you. And let's be honest, we are both Blackpool boys. We're both brought up.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I mean, personally, so much stuff gone in my life and still going on today with that. Could drag you down and make you not as professional and not where you should be. It could have ended up anywhere, to be honest, from growing up on the streets in Blackpool, you know that. But just that drive and passion to keep moving forward, do well for your family and prove to everyone that you've got something about you. That's the biggest driving factor, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. And I was speaking to someone last week and I went, listen, I didn't have a really horrible childhood or a difficult childhood, but I knew I was from Blackpool and people looked down the nose at me for coming from Blackpool. And we were together a few weeks ago and we were having a laugh when people were like, oh, you two from Blackpool? I'm like, yeah. We had pets when we were growing up. We're like, what were your pets? And we went, the rats that used to run around the yards.
Yeah, no, exactly that, mate. Exactly that. But it's nothing to be ashamed of, is it? We've all done all right.
It's made us who we are today.
100%.
And, you know, we're both grounded. We both know where we're from, and you know, it's no bad thing whatsoever, in my opinion.
No, definitely not, mate. Definitely not.
Luke, thank you for joining me.
No problems whatsoever, buddy.
I think today's conversation has definitely shown that improving transaction times isn't about estate agents versus conveyancers. It's about collaboration, communication, and putting the client at the centre of the entire process. And for those watching or listening, if you've enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, share it with colleagues, clients, and anyone involved in the property industry. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you on the next episode of Property and Beyond.